came up with this subject is because I keep getting reminders from the government, from state and federal government, to make sure that I have my coverage in place. So this just popped into my head as an issue that we always include in our property settlement agreements through mediation, to make sure that both parties and their children have this coverage going forward. There's a lot of the situations that I run into when people come in here to mediate their divorce is that the health insurance coverage is through one spouse's employers, or one spouse's employers. So the other spouse, once that decree is issued, they're not going to have any coverage. So we do need to address that. And with the cost that's associated with trying to find your own plan, it's important that we look at budgets and make sure that the spouse that's going to be left without coverage has that ability to obtain that, once that decree is issued. So,
in other words, you're saying you take the financial piece of the spouse without the insurance is going to have an expense.
Right. A couple of different ways that you can look at it. When we are looking at the fairness of alimony, we definitely will include this calculation in a budget to make sure that that alimony is covering things such as this, because this would definitely be an added expense. So basically what happens is that even if the parties agree on a separation date, the employer will allow the spouse that works for them to keep the other spouse on their coverage all the way through the issuance of the divorce decree, as long as it's within a reasonable period of time. But once that decree is issued, the spouse needs to have that coverage in place. So that's kind of the timeline that they operate off of, and being able to do that. The other piece that's very important is being able to make sure that the children as well have coverage. Same kind of situation is that children are also covered by that employer's policy. So normally the spouse that's providing that coverage will keep the children on their policy as well. But we do address, who's responsible for payment of the premium through this agreement too.
And I'm just thinking, and as people out there are probably thinking as well, is so you make that agreement, but certainly if you have a life change or you change your job kind of thing, that would be revisited, I'm guessing, even though we agreed to one of us paying the expense of the premium. Right.
So normally what we agree to is or the way that we draft the agreement is that it states as long as that benefit is available through the employer.
Okay.
Right. But once that happens, like you're saying, a change of circumstances that they didn't have any control over, it's the understanding that they'll work together, or come back and contact us and, see how we can maybe amend the agreement to reflect how they're going to provide coverage for their children in the future. One piece that's also addressed in that is that insurance premium is part of the child support calculation here in the state of Pennsylvania. So the party responsible for making that payment does get a credit, for what they're paying for that premium in that monthly total of child support.
Oh, so that is taken into consideration with the child support formula.
Right.
Helpful to know. And the other thing is, if we come to the office center, I'm going to guess you guys automatically bring this up because these are things that need to be addressed, but we don't always know what needs to be addressed. So,
right, and that's also one of the benefits of what we do here. Parties don't necessarily walk into a divorce in the best mindset. When there's a lot of emotions going on, there's a lot of worries as far as financial or what we're doing with our property, what we're doing with our children. And that's where our expertise comes in, because we're going to make sure that we address all these things, these seemingly, everyday things that we take for granted, do need to be looked at. We do need to make sure that, each party has that coverage, that the children are covered. At the same time, we are going to look at, how we're going to divide the property and assets and everything like that. But we do make sure that we address these issues as well. Like health insurance, like auto insurance, like do I have wills in place and things like that. So they're important as well.
Which we we definitely don't, we're not thinking all those topics. We don't come in with all those questions because our emotions are in such a different place. So very helpful. Anything else?
Right. That's definitely, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you out, Georganne, but that's definitely not what people lead with is where my health insurance coverage is going to come from. So
I like just knowing that it's looked at on a fair basis of what is fair for both parties, with the children always being the first concern, but that these are all expenses.
Right. And that's one of the good things about mediation is that we're able to sit down and have a conversation between the three of us in order to, work this out. I think there's a lot of when you're only having a conversation with an attorney, there's a lot of unknown and there's a lot of unrealistic expectations about what that other party should be doing. But if we're not speaking with them, we really don't know what they're thinking either. And then it's just the two attorneys talking, and are we really working in the best interest of each other at that point? So,
right, good point. Well, so let's see. One, we can ask you questions, but two, you're going to ask us questions when we come about how we want to handle this, and you're going to kind of guide us on that. What's best for the children. And
this is the health insurance issue is one of our clauses that we contain in that marital settlement agreement. So we will definitely bring this up when we sit down and talk.
Well, it brings us to know that we should not attempt to not have some knowledge or ask some questions about this if we're out there and we're not going through a mediation process. So hopefully we are, but if we're not, you helped us bring to top of mind. We need to bring this up.
Right.
So thanks again for coming back to us.